Hey everybody, Denise Vasquez here, and welcome to another edition of How Accessible is Accessible for the Disabled Photographer Project. Right now we are at Pecos National Historical Park, and we're here with Ranger Eric, and I'm going to have Ranger Eric tell you a little bit more about the accessibility available in the park, wildlife, the trails, and more.
Awesome. Well, hey, we're glad to have you here. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you so much.
So Pecos National Historical Park has 3 trails. Of those, the primary one that most people go on is the one that we're on now. This is the Ancestral Sites Trail that takes people through what's left of Pecos Pueblo, the Spanish Mission Church. It allows people to go down into a kiva, and it allows them to be able to really see a little bit more of what people were experiencing here for so many years. Most of the trail terrain is much like this. It was retextured a few years ago, which does have its issues. So just to be clear, one of the biggest issues is up here by the kiva. We actually have a portion where the drainage isn't as great as we would have liked. So while most of the trail is ADA accessible in terms of grade and in terms of like rest areas, everything like that, there's also where some water has run off the top and has actually cut a little bit of a furrow into the trail, which isn't great. We're working on trying to be able to fix that. There's also one other limitation, which is on the end of the North Pueblo up over here. The grade is just too steep. When it was originally put into place back in the 1930s, when the state was doing all of this, ADA just wasn't a concern back then, which means that, even though we'd love to be able to go and manipulate that trail more, that means that there's a relatively short portion of the trail that's about 30 feet long that's too steep to truly be ADA accessible. That being said, we have been able to make progress for ADA accessibility for other portions of the trail, including the fact that you can go up along here. You can actually go on up on either side of that one slope and still be able to access and look at parts of the trail through ADA accessible parts. And through the church itself, we've been able to put in areas where you can actually roll, for instance, a wheelchair up along the side of the church and access it through a side door without having to erode more of the foundation, more of the historic foundation that's there. So there's options. I won't claim that they're 100%, right. But there has been a conscious effort to do that. And one of the other advantages that this trail has is that besides the fact that you can kind of see these stones along either way that help keep it clear where the edges are, we also have a program in place where we have these audio devices. They're powered basically through GPS units.
Wow.
So you can check these out at the Visitor Center. And what happens is, as someone is walking along the trail, it'll vibrate when the GPS unit detects that you're close enough to one of the signs right on through here that shows where you're at on the trail. And it gives an audio description. So it'll talk about what's on the panels, it'll talk about what you see on the trail, and then it'll also give an audio description to be able to say, the path continues ahead of you for, 30 yards, shifting off to the left, and then it will straighten out, da-da-da-da-da. It'll give a description of what to expect as you're going to the next spot. It's not 100%,
I think that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I think it's the fact, number one, that the park acknowledges that there's still work to be done. I think that is the most important thing, is awareness, bringing awareness to what we have and how we can improve on what we have, and having that technology is a great start. It's pretty advanced in my opinion. Of course, there's always room for improvement in everything in life, but
definitely.
I definitely appreciate the fact that we have a trail that is, somewhat accessible, and that you have an audio device, especially telling people, where to stay on the path. I've never heard of that, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then I was informed that there was another option if you didn't want to walk the trail.
Yes. Which is great, yeah. So as you were informed, there's an upper parking lot that's right by the church. And especially for some of our older visitors, things like that, it's only 100 yards from that parking lot to the church itself, which can be really great for folks who don't want to walk as far, or that even though this isn't a huge slope, we're still at nearly 7,000 feet. And for a lot of people, that's a lot of change in elevation.
Yeah, I was having issues actually today with elevation.
I'm sure, yeah. I mean, coming from San Diego, definitely. So that upper parking lot starts you up kind of at the top of this little mesa over here. So instead of you gaining and losing 80 feet or so over the course of this trail, you're really only gaining or losing maybe 20 or so, which is a lot more accessible for folks who are doing that. Or, to be fair, for the folks who just want to pop out of their car, take a few quick photographs with the church, and then get on their way, because plenty of people do that as well.
I think I'm going to do that today.
Sounds good. Cool.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for this great information.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. And
Of course.
is there any website where people can learn more about the park?
Of course, and that's going to be the general NPS website. So if you go to nps.gov/PECO, that's our 4-letter acronym, you can learn more about the park, you can learn more about our accessibility. And one other tool that's come out recently for the Park Service is there's a brand new NPS app that you can use.
Yes.
And that has on it, they've really been trying to emphasize where we write out how accessible our trails are on there. So that, of course, is more of a scale. You know, for something like this, we're close, but it's not 100%. Other trails on other places, it's going to be to try and define what the grade is, everything like that. So that's been something they've been trying to emphasize and bring up with other parks as well. And that can be a great resource. Of course, we're on there along with every other National Park Service unit across the United States.
I think the app is a great tool, and I think it's important for all the parks to be honest, you know, as far as accessibility on the trails. And it's a great tool. And we'll see you at the next stop. We're going to drive up to the top and check out the view from up there. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you. Hey everybody, so I want to give you some tips because I'm having some issues with elevation and the heat. First, make sure that you always carry water on you, at least a gallon, to keep you hydrated. Secondly, make sure you're wearing sunscreen and a hat to protect you from the sun, or some chapstick too. And I always wear these long sleeve shirts for extra covering on my arms. But I want to give a shout out and a thank you to Ranger Eric, because he was telling us earlier about some accessibility options they have here at the park. So one option is to do the hike, which is over a mile. And if you're limited on your mobility, that might be quite challenging. But the second option of driving up here is what we just did. So it's quite simple. So if you come out behind the visitor center and make a right, just follow the signs to the picnic area. And from the picnic area, it's a short walk from the parking lot to the beautiful mission you see behind me, and take in the views. It's beautiful, gorgeous. Pace yourself and always listen to your body, you guys. If you're feeling a little tired and a little run down, it's okay to take a rest. So I just used the restrooms up here, and I've got to say, these are the nicest restrooms I have ever used in a national park. So thank you to Pecos for the amazing restrooms. They do have an accessible restroom as well. And I know there's always room for improvement in all of the national parks to make them more accessible for everyone. I just got to say, I appreciate the efforts being made by the national parks that are doing all they can to make the parks accessible for everyone. I'm Denise Vasquez, founder of the Disabled Photographer Project and How Accessible is Accessible series. If you'd like to learn more about my project, be sure to visit my website at www.denisevasquezphotography.com/blog. There's a donate button in the blog if you'd like to make a donation that would really help support the project. And if you're on Instagram, be sure to follow us at Disabled Photographer Project. Thank you so much for your love and support, you guys, and we'll see you at the next stop.
So that means that we get a lot of birds down by the river. And I'm really hoping that if we get that trail open more for the public, we'll be able to get more birders who are able to access those portions of the park more frequently.
I just met and interviewed the other day a birder who's blind.
Oh yeah.
From Florida, and
Yeah.
he's learned how to identify the birds by sounds.
Yep.
And then his wife helps him set up. They have this camera
Yeah.
that she helps him set up.